Hello, Robert from PPS.
And Rob from Seattle. Welcome, Rob.
Yeah, Lacey's on too from Seattle.
Wow. That is cool.
Sue's asking if the theme of this meeting is going to be trains because baseball was fun last month, but who doesn't love a train ride?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, Rex,
a lot
this
of questions about the tote bags too, I understand.
We're looking for a good design and having a screen printing party is what it sounds like.
And Laura from Seattle. Wow, the gang's all here. We should ask them questions. This is going to be great.
That's right.
Thanks for coming. You throw a party, we show up.
Rob, in the super circular on page 27. Lindsey, you want to introduce the team?
Yes, I would love to. Hi, this is Lindsey. Well, let's see. I'm going to get this recorded first.
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Never mind.
It's recorded.
All right. So this is Lindsey Pearson from the Early Learning Division, here to talk to you about the Oregon Pre-Kindergarten Grant Application and the frequently asked questions that you guys are all holding in your pockets. And next up will be Michael.
Hi, I'm Michael Connor, Preschool Program Specialist from the Early Learning Division in the middle of the valley. All of a sudden we got trains. Clouds, not trains, clouds. Suey got me thinking about trains. Clouds this morning, and they're even talking about maybe a little snow. Who knows? And I'm also in the room with Gwen Bachtel.
Hello.
And I know Teresa's here too. Teresa, you want to say hi?
Howdy, gang. This is Teresa Waite, your preschool grant specialist.
All right, well, so really in looking at the chat box, we only had one question and it was about the theme. So I would love to hear what everybody is thinking. Feel free to fill up the chat box or unmute yourself if you have a pressing question. I guess we could start with, hey, Teresa, do we have new questions from the last time we had our information session on the FAQ?
There are not new questions on the FAQ because we didn't have anything to add as of last or in time for last Friday's posting. So this week we will be collecting the questions and adding them. So right now you are as up to date on the printed FAQ, but we are in the process of collecting all those questions.
Leslie Arbuckle says she can only take till 1:30. Do you have questions, Leslie? I talked with somebody just a couple days ago who knew you and said, wow, she's great to work with. Unsolicited, just out of the blue. One of your partners at Sandy Grange. Oh, Lindsay says we answered the question to email.
I'm going to take Brenda's question because Brenda's asking about whether there's a live list or wait till a new PDF is released. And Brenda, we release a PDF of the FAQs every Friday, unless we have no new FAQs. So we are not doing a live list the way we did for, well, the last time we had one, which was, what, 2 years ago?
For the duration.
Thank you, yes. There are a lot more questions with this one, and it's the management of it appears to be better through this process.
I'll take Sue Miller's question. Hi back. We have a monitoring plan that includes all MOUs, letters of intent, showing the partnership. Will this work rather than trying to upload many agreements, some several pages long? Thank you. What a great question. So So the RFA does detail some requirements, especially around the service area coordination agreements, that may not be familiar or present in all MOUs. Having said that, if you've got a concise, clear, complete way of showing how you've arranged your community partnerships, I would imagine that uploading that, and then we'll follow up if we have questions, seems like a reasonable way to go. That'd be my first take on that answer. I don't know if others on the panel would disagree.
I think I agree with that, Michael. And then I have Sue's question, Leslie's question, sorry about that, right here. And her question was on Appendix C Enhancement Worksheet, Priority 1, Teacher Salaries. If you only have Step 7 assistants and Step 10 teachers, do you leave the other categories at 0? And I answered with, yes, I believe so. And Teresa, I CC'd you on that response and I did not get corrected, so I think I might be right.
Exactly, I think that is correct.
Okay.
If you don't have it, don't account for it.
They sometimes won't let you pass go if you leave them blank, so making sure you have a 0 in there will help you out.
Robert's asking about a link to the previous FAQ. And Robert, all of the FAQ questions are listed in the Student Success Act, and we can send out a link to that page where all of our grant materials are. And our FAQs are all listed, and then we tell you as of what date different ones were added. So we will get a Student Success Act link, because I know, as not being a State of Oregon grantee, that's not something you necessarily have in hand.
And I just posted the link to that in the chat box, and I had sent an email to Rob, Lacey, and Laura with the OPK application attached to it, so the PDF version, but also when you go to our website, you'll see all of the applications that are available. So lots of our grantees are applying for more than one grant, so they're all there.
This is Gwen. I'm curious. There's a question I'll read out loud because I'm not sure if everybody can see the chat box, or if you might just be on a phone. So it says, can you respond now during this call to questions we submitted in writing but that haven't been answered in writing yet? And I guess I was kind of, I think that's kind of for the team, because Teresa mentioned that we don't have any new ones in. So I just want to make sure that we've received the questions.
And can I clarify, Gwen? We didn't have any for last week's.
Okay.
We do have some since then for this week's that are being put together.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's why I was just wanting to kind of make sure I understood. So, and then I guess I'm not sure if we have those questions available now, if we're able to respond to them, or if we should. I'm putting that back to the ELD team.
Well, and I think there are at least a couple questions that we're still developing our response.
Got it.
So if you ask a hard question, sometimes it takes a little longer. So thank you for your patience.
So those will be posted in our newest FAQ when it comes out. Okay, great. That answers that.
We do have a question here that I'm not sure from UCAN. We may be able to answer right away, and we may not. We'll see how the team feels. But if coaches, supervisors, developmental specialists are a qualified teaching staff and are frequently substituting in classrooms, can we consider them in the teaching weight increase section? I think that we would maybe have to talk this over. My first initial response is the legislation says people that are in lead teacher positions as well as assistant teacher positions. And we have been tasked with reading and intending exactly what the legislators are intending for us to. So we may have to talk that over a little bit more, but that's my first initial response.
Yeah, I think that would probably move down into the third priority around other staff salary and retention efforts. And we recognize that our system is not perfect, and we have people covering and so forth. I tend to concur with Lindsey's first response there, first responder. But we can keep thinking about that a little bit more. I would go to the question 17 around adding additional staff, and question, sorry to make you dizzy here, but there is another, yeah. Examples of other salary and retention improvements down here are bulleted, and provide salary enhancements for staff that have a specialty. That includes early childhood mental health or special education. Certainly could include coaches. Coaches are lifted above under improved compensation for other staff. So I think the first priority, as I understand it, in the salary enhancement worksheet is around meeting the guidance from the Early Learning Council for teachers, lead teachers, and assistant teachers. And that's the first priority. Second priority is around transportation, and then the third priority is around these other salary and retention improvement efforts.
Yeah, this is Gwen. I think I'll just sort of add kind of to Lindsey's point. You know, we're really needing to kind of adhere to the legislation around the lead teacher and the teacher assistants. And, you know, the Early Learning Council on the 16th will be, fingers crossed, adopting the methodology that is being recommended, and that's for the salary guidelines. And I want to thank all of you who provided input in the stakeholder engagement meetings that went into that. So we should have those, you know, requirements and targets available. And so I think all I would say is once those are, you know, accepted and approved by the Early Learning Council, if you're able to meet, you know, the goal is that we have, you know, grantees that are able to meet at least the minimum requirements that will be established. And so if you're, you know, with your lead teachers and teacher assistants able to sort of, you know, meet those minimum requirements, then I think it's probably, you know, that's then going to be sort of your decisions around how you might use the funds to support other staff positions. And I think it's sort of your, you know, decisions around sort of your wage structure. But what will be, you know, the goal, to Lindsey's point with the legislation, is to ensure that, you know, to the best of our ability, that those lead teachers and teacher assistants are hitting the minimum requirements.
I want to make sure I understand Leslie's question about the future salary part. Do we fill in the only step 10 teachers if that is all we have? Leslie, I'm not sure I understand the question, and I know you have to go soon. Do you think, what if I unmuted you? You want to try to say more about that? You're self-muted, it looks like.
Okay, yeah, actually Lindsey answered the question. So we only have teachers who are at a step 10, and we only have assistants who are at step 7. So my question was, do we just fill out the step 10 and the step 7 parts of that appendix? And even for, it says, what will that look like in the future? Mm-hmm. So I think he answered that.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you. Yeah. If you don't have teachers or assistant teachers at other levels, then you can leave that part blank. We're just trying to help to show us, if you're using this money, you know, what's the situation now with your teachers at different levels, and then as you implement your salary enhancement plan, what's it going to look like for next program year? And as you can imagine, we'll be compiling those and analyzing those and then reporting to ELD leadership and to the legislature, presumably, and to the governor. This is what we're able to do with this money. Look how far we've grown. Now we are 6. As we need to yeah. So thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Kathleen has asked a question. A notice came out from the ACF about a Head Start funding increase. Will that affect our grant? Well, Kathleen, not your grant, but lots of other people's grants. I'm not sure exactly how you may think that would affect your grant, but as of right now, I can't see that having an impact on any of our state-funded only programs. One of the things that I think we have an opportunity to look at is how we work together with our lovely Region 10 specialists to talk about TNTA and the support you guys are going to need to meet the requirements of all of the grants. So that's, it could impact you guys by way of getting some neat trainings or access to some cool information. But other than that, I can't see it affecting you too much.
The other wrinkle on that, I think Kathleen or Ned or some of the other state onlys like Leslie, your Region 10 partners have to take our enhancement funds and smear them out over all of their slots and meet the salary requirements. Whereas you're able to apply for the $2,600 per slot that goes for all of your Head Start slots, and you don't have to do some complicated math that makes Kimberly Brown stay up at night thinking about how you're going to take money that are just for your OPK slots and then apply them to all of your teachers in all of your classrooms and meet all of the salary guidelines. So, you're not saying this, but the grass is sometimes greener, but kind of depends on where you're sitting. So, and we're happy to work with you if you're feeling stuck or you just want to talk through your planning. So, but yes, the COLA announced by the Office of Head Start does not apply to our 7 grantees that are not Region 10 grantees. Thanks for asking that, Kathleen. Kimberly Brown, since I said your name, your ears are burning. Do you want to say a little bit more about your question, comment around facilities?
So I guess we're kind of at a standstill because, we are working with people to try to locate facilities, but we haven't received the grant or grant funds to secure anything with. So trying to stabilize and get a facility 4 or 5 months in advance before being able to actually get it has really kind of tied our hands over here. I'm sure others too, but we can't really make any movement on it without having any funds to secure it because we don't know what we have. Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
I do.
So I can't really give facility plans because I don't have that money yet to secure it. And when I talk to a realtor, they're like, well, if you're not ready to act now, there's no sense in us talking because of how real estate and facilities are going in our communities. So I'm looking at the grant and seeing that it's worth 5 points to be able to add a floor plan and all this great stuff, but I don't have the ability to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 a little bit because you're being asked to tell us with as much detail as you can about your plans, your hopes and dreams, and your plans, and then in that way, if your application, not you, but if one's application is successful, then you're granted money to then go out and secure the facilities that you intended to get. I don't think I have a great answer except to say, you'll know by 1st of May. So it's coming.
So I'm just gonna speak to that in my grant, I guess.
Yep, exactly.
That's kind of just where I'm at with that. But I'm sure others are probably facing that too.
Sure.
Yeah. And then if there's time, I have a coronavirus question and training, but it doesn't have to take up everybody's time if they have other questions.
Okay.
So
And Kim, I just, all of us recognize that that's a difficult position to be in, and I don't have a great solution to that. I don't think there is one, because we can't promise money if we haven't seen a plan, and you can't get a plan together if you don't have, it's a
Kind of a catch-22. Yeah.
So the only thing I could say is that the calendar is continuing to move. The grant's due soon. Maybe we said this last time, but we've all blocked off about half of our work calendars in April to be scoring applications. So that's literally the level of priority that we have to getting applications reviewed and following up if there are questions or concerns or whatever about your application, because although, as we said this before, it is a competitive application in the sense that we don't have an infinite amount of money, we also are really interested in supporting you to have an effective application process that allows you to expand and enhance services in the way that the legislature is helping us to do. So hang in there and do the best you can. And and Gwen wants to chime in.
Yeah, I just wanted to check. And there, question 16 in the FAQ, I don't know if this answers you completely, Kimberly, but the question was, our planned space for 2020-2021 program year is not yet confirmed. Can we still apply for grant funding without confirmation? And so I don't know if this helped, you might have already, but it says, yes, an applicant can apply without confirmation for planned space. Applicant should include narrative that details the plans to acquire space and all associated timelines, or any documentation that supports the plan, such as a letter of intent from a facility partner, should be included. So, but it's not required, right? So I think just as much as you can tell us what your plan is to secure facilities and the timeline in more of a narrative, I think that's what you can do right now, right? Without something secured already.
Perfect. Thank you. And I actually love that it's 250 words. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Well, can I interject something here? This is Teresa. As of about 20 minutes before we went live, it was increased. So everyone does have the opportunity, and I'll be getting an email message out on this. So you have an opportunity to add if you feel like you need to add. So.
And so what is it?
Right now it's at 1,000, because if I tried to make it unlimited, I was running into some error messages with SurveyMonkey, so I had to stop at 1,000.
1,000.
Yeah. And I didn't have time to try to battle that.
So for me, that's frustrating, because I've worked really hard on a 250 word limit.
I know, and I apologize for that.
And now we're almost 3/4 done, and it's shifting. But okay.
And no, we will consider 250 words completely sufficient. So don't think that you have to go back and add any more to the information that you've already provided. If you want to, and you really struggled and you felt like your answer in 250 words or less was not sufficient, then you can go back and do that. But we are not at all going to punish anybody for 250 words, and I think all of us want to apologize and say that this didn't happen, apologize for this not happening sooner, and apologize for I'm sure the immense frustration at the amount of time it takes to pare those answers down. So
right, but if you read an application that's 250 words as compared to an application that's 1,000, the quality is going to be much different. So now we have to kind of shift.
I would just like to throw in that sometimes more words does not mean better quality, and I'm actually really proud of some of the stuff I've been reading with regards to some sample answers people have said, just to get the idea of brevity. So, but you are absolutely welcome to beef up your response if you like.
And I'll just, the switch, this is Gwen, again, I think from the team, we apologize that what we bumped into is we recognize that for some applicants, it was actually based on kind of one of the questions where it was, there wasn't sufficient space based on their unique situation. And so it was sort of, it wasn't meant to, provide any type of advantage or anything. It was just that we wanted everybody to, be able to have the space if they needed, but please, like we said, like Michael said earlier, if you can say it succinctly, we're going to be reviewing a lot of applications in April, so our intent was to help you keep it succinct and to also, help us with the review process as well.
You can, I don't know if it's Sean or said, thanks Teresa for fixing the upload of multiple documents. I think thanks for Teresa for fixing the blank is, we should get like a stamp for that around here, because that happens 20 or 30 times a week. Hey Teresa.
I agree, Michael.
That should just be a generic autofill kind of a thing.
Thanks, guys.
Hey,
go ahead.
Marguerite asked what type of startup expenses are allowed and not allowed. And I think so. There's we have mandate from the state. We're not going to buy or purchase property. I think everybody has heard that from us too many times. But startup costs would include, and I'm sure I'm going to need support on having a full answer on this, but classroom materials and furniture, things that you would need to support duration, like cots and sheets and pillows or not pillows, as well as, helping to make a space appropriate for the age of children that you serve. So but I think, like making sure that the restrooms are size appropriate and the play equipment are size appropriate, making sure that if there are safety concerns like enclosures for playgrounds and those sort of things would be considered as startup expenses. And please correct me if I'm wrong or add to my answer, team.
Yeah, we have the first question on the FAQ was how to apply. I think completing the Section 5 budget will help sort of shape in terms of what kind of categories. You may have training needs associated with helping people to implement a curriculum with fidelity in the afternoon. You may have the need to buy purchase more materials to support activities where you have children longer for the day. In general, things that are allowable, allocable, and reasonable in general are, if you've got a good reason why they're going to help you get a classroom going or transition a classroom from part day to extended day or to start working with infants and toddlers, then that's what the Section 5 budget can detail. Pam asks, hi Pam, we are currently receiving about 13,000 per, she says early head start child from the state. So that's in our new Oregon pre-kindergarten prenatal to 3, will these children move to the $27,000 cost per child? So I don't know exactly what your model is off the top of my head for the current system, but you can apply for the program options that we've detailed in the application, and the cost per child, which does include enhancement funds, are, I think you'll agree, pretty good deal, comparatively speaking. So yes, apply for the prenatal to 3 slots that best fit the needs of your community. And yes, you can use the numbers that are published in the RFA for budgeting purposes in terms of cost per child.
And I just want to make a clarifying statement only because I've heard it said a lot of different ways. And when we say that the prenatal to 3 slots include the salary enhancements, that means that there is not an additional amount of money on top of that. Some people have taken that to mean that it includes the additional money as opposed to that the money's already baked into it. So I just want to clarify that the money for that is baked in already.
Like fruitcake. Somebody want to take the next question around the implementation plan questions? Teresa, you know how that works better on the SurveyMonkey.
Well, the short answer is we don't have an attachment space there.
Okay.
I would say potentially the long answer is that you should do a narrative and then utilize potentially, because I just adjusted the 4 uploads to be multiple documents.
Nice.
So potentially point us to whichever place you uploaded a table if you would like us to look at it.
Right. That makes sense.
It'll be one of the categories that doesn't make sense, but if you tell us where to look within your narrative, that will help.
Right. If you upload a document called implementation plan table, for example, that would be helpful.
But if you upload it to the MOUs, we'll know that it's not an MOU.
Right. Thanks, Teresa, for fixing the multiple uploads thing.
You're welcome.
Okay, Pam's got a question. If I want to use the transportation dollars to improve driver salaries to make them more competitive, should this be in priority number 2 or number 3? I want to say that is increasing access to transportation, which would be in priority number 2, but I also want to bounce that off of my team and see what they think.
Gwen and I did a little head nod. That seems right.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is I think, you know, when we think of transportation enhancement, I think we think about, you know, sort of additional services, and yet I understand the need to retain the services or sustain the services that you're already, you know, trying to offer. So I agree with Lindsey. I think, you know, our goal is to not lose routes, but to sustain or increase routes, right? That's the goal.
Yeah. So not a super clear answer there for you, Pam. Go Saints. That's the nickname for Mount Hood. You know, if your argument is I need to improve driver salaries so I can hire more drivers to transport more kids, then that would seem like a 2. If you're saying I'm using this as a strategy to retain staff, and then it could be a 3. I think you're the right person to decide sort of how to frame that up. At some level, it doesn't. Well, yeah, I'll just stop there. Robert says, we are getting very close here at Eastern Oregon University Headstart. Will we get those targets, those salary guidelines I assume you're talking about, on Friday? I like that optimism, Robert. That's the plan.
But Friday after the early learning council meeting, not this Friday.
I think that's what he's asking.
Right? Yeah. So it'd be the
17th?
No, that's not a Friday.
Oh, so let's rethink Robert's question here.
I think it's the 20th is the Friday after the ELC meets on the 16th, and we'll be voting hopefully and adopting a methodology in which then we can start working on making sure you guys know what it is.
So earlier than that Friday?
Hopefully, yes.
Or were you thinking about something different? I want to make sure I understand your question, Robert. Those targets. We're interested in your question. I'm going to unmute you, Robert, you're unmuted if you want to chime in or text in. we want to make sure you get your question here on Dancing with the Specialists. It's a new show.
He doesn't have a microphone. This is
Oh.
Kim.
Okay.
Maybe he can,
Maybe he'll text something.
yeah.
He put something in the text box and he was hoping it was this Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, the council meeting is on Monday, the 16th. So if, yeah, so the reason I think it might have been in a FAQ. I think, our goal was then to be able to turn it all around and have it out to everybody by the end of that week on the 20th. Yet I think that if, once we get through the council meeting, the memo to the council, and their decision will, be available to everybody. It's a public meeting. We're providing them with two options and around the methodology. So we, need to wait until they kind of make a decision on that. And then we'll be using that methodology to then create, finalized documents that we can have available to you by next Friday. But the decision will be made on Monday, the 16th.
Kim, you commented that you created steps based on associate degree teachers and bachelor's degree levels for teachers. So currently, the Preschool Promise guidelines are very friendly to that way of thinking about teacher qualifications. And without knowing exactly what the council's going to do, we could say that would definitely align with, in general, sort of how the guidelines are shaping up. So that I wouldn't expect that to be a problem.
Sabrina asked about the 250 words or less, and just you may have missed it. We talked about it earlier. It's been extended to 1,000 words with no expectation that folks who've already answered in 250 words or less go back to extend their answers.
Hey, Lindsay, it's Teresa. Yeah, I was scrolling ahead of you guys, and that's part of why I popped in when I did.
Good.
Trying to catch the ones I knew I could answer in case I have to go to my meeting.
Ned, how are you? Ned from Wilsonville has a question about working with little ones. Can we adjust hours from 6 to 8 per day to meet community needs and stay within the 1380 hours? Let's see, Teresa, Lindsay, thoughts on that one? Ned always has an interesting question to add.
I think for me, I like meeting community needs first, and then second, if you are meeting the Headstart performance standards, the early Headstart performance standards, and you are making sure that you are meeting the 1,380 hours, I think 8 hours a day would be acceptable. Does anybody else have a different answer?
No, I think that's a 10 out of 10 on the answer. Not that we're scoring the answers. I hope we're not scoring the answers, are we?
I would agree. Good points, Lindsay. One, it's great bringing in community needs information, and two, all models have to meet Head Start standards. So I think you nailed it.
Denis, who is dancing with the ELD stars? That is a great question. First of all, very low ratings on that program, with the possible exception of Teresa. Yeah, thank you for asking about that. Denis is always interested in the side conversations about, he had like 4 or 5 comments last time about the tote bags.
Oh, I'm just liking the image of Denis doing the Carlton.
Yeah.
So, good image.
Okay, that's the bottom of my the list that I see on the chat box. Quinn has a comment.
Oh, there was, I think, was it covered already when we talked about, Marguerite has a question, was it covered under the what can startup costs be used? What about remodeling expenses? Did that get answered fully? I just wanted to make sure.
I don't think that we answered that specifically, no, but it is my understanding, and please, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that those are acceptable expenses under our Oregon requirements for those things. Is that right?
I think moving walls might have some limitations, but that there are situations where moving walls are acceptable. I wouldn't want to say all wall movements, but based on what Marguerite wrote, yes, there are some situations where a wall movement is acceptable.
And I think the way, the questions frame, what about remodeling expenses? And I think, the way we look at it is, are there needed adaptations to the space in order to meet the needs of the age group of children being served, to either meet licensing requirements or other regulations? So I think, that's sort of at least a little bit of our, can't be capital expenditures, but we definitely know that, to serve infants and toddlers or even preschoolers, that there might be some, accommodations are, necessary to meet that need. So that can be indoor or outdoor as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there was a recent thing that came out from Headstart that reminded me that we like equipment, but we don't like property. So if you've got equipment you need, that's a great thing to appear on a budget. We don't like property, though. That makes it hard for us. So I hope that answers your question. If you're not feeling satisfied with the answer, or you just want to check in about your plan, we are available. You can use the phone number that we have for the hotline that's in the RFA or on the page for the Student Success and on the page for the Student Success Act for us. There's also, as you know, an email. You can just contact your specialist. There's a lot of ways that we would love to try to help clarify and help you think it through, and not just clarify, but think it through. Kathleen asks, is there money left in this year's grant? Will we be able to roll those over to next year in your individual grant? That's an interesting question. If you're, she says yes. Would you like to weigh in on that one?
I would love to weigh in on that one. We are going to be putting out new grants. So rolling over is not something that's going to be the way it has happened in the past mid-biennium. I don't know what the process would be for any unspent funds. We'll have to think about that. And I was actually thinking about bringing that forward to the team that's working on these processes, because it will be an entirely new grant agreement for this final year of the biennium.
So in general,
that is a
like to help
great one to
spend
look
your money. Use it.
Use it this year.
In general, if you can. And if you want help on that, that's good. Kim is asking about sending staff to the national conference. We have a floor for training funds, Kim, which is 2.5%. You can spend more than that, but you can't spend less. So if you are working with your board and your policy council and you decide that that travel associated with training is going to take you over your, is more than usual or more than you expected or whatever, then those are the right people to talk to about that. We, your staff and what professional development needs and plans they have. So we mostly check up on are you meeting the minimum? And then the maximum or going above that is really a conversation for you and your colleagues and partners in the program. That's my take.
Here's a question here from Melinda in Klamath. Regarding the 1,380 hours for early Head Start, the performance standards state if you do not have a class in the summer, you have to provide home visits. So if we shortened the weeks of class, would we still be expected to complete home visits in the summer? I think that that is a question I think I might need to think over, and I don't know, does somebody have a better answer or a solid answer, rather?
Let's phone a Region 10 friend.
That would be good. We don't have our Hollywood squares put up, but that would be good if we did.
Can we phone a friend? Rob, Laura, Lacey, anyone? Sounds like we need to think about that one a little bit. I love that. So, Melinda from Klamath Falls, thank you for your question. We will confer and refer and then post something. Oh, Laura says repeat the question. I'm muted. Okay, Laura.
All right. Regarding the 1,380 hours for early Head Start, the performance standards state that if you do not have class in the summer, you have to provide home visits. So if we shorten the weeks of class, we would still be expected to complete home visits in the summer. So I'm assuming, Melinda, that you guys do you currently have a year-round model saying that if you close for a little bit during the summer, would you then have to complete home visits?
Yes, we currently go year round. It wasn't even something I was thinking about until the former question came up about going to 1,380 hours by going 8 hours. And so I was just curious if we looked at something like that, would we still have to do the home visits because that's what the performance standards say for the federal program.
Do you have an idea of how many weeks you would shorten or close during the summer as an idea?
No, I was just looking at the how many days it would take at 8 hours a day compared to what we have in our schedule, and it's quite a few less. So I'm not sure. Didn't do the complete math.
All right. So Laura, I think the question is if they move to 8 hours and provide the 1,380 hours in a shorter duration of time, would they then still be responsible for providing home visits if they were to close for a bit during the summer?
It looks like Laura is saying you should implement services year-round.
And then farther down, it looks like Laura's also saying home visiting could supplement as continuous services if you otherwise meet the 1,380, which basically I think goes to Melinda's question.
Yes, we do.
That the performance standards state if you don't have class in summer, you have to provide home visits. And since the Early Learning Division asks them to, and the legislature asks them to follow performance standards, then the answer is yes.
Ned says, well, wait, isn't that just for the teen parent program? And it sounds like no, not just for teen parent program. If I read your question right, Ned.
That would be my answer as well, but I wonder if our Region 10 folks have a different answer. I've never heard of it being an exception for the teen parent program.
Or just about the teen parent program. So yeah. Okay. And Laura says, nope, not just about teen parents, just gotta have year-round services. You can organize the 1,380 hours in whatever way fits your community need. So I think we got that one. That's exciting.
Right, but Michael, to be clear that if you meet the 1,380 and that those services are not year-round services, you're required to provide home visits.
Correct.
Through the duration of the year.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Robert has a question about his application and prenatal to 3 home caseload. There's nothing in the application that says you need to apply for bundles of 10. So I'm sort of taking that as you'd like maybe a chance to just talk through your thinking on your application, Robert, rather than what does the RFA say? So if that's true, then we can chat offline about just sort of how you're planning to do that. Yeah, okay. So, and that's a great question, and others might be interested in weighing in, other directors and stuff, but
I wonder how other folks have done it with their Region 10 early Head Start grants. Are they always applying for a classroom level, or are they applying for a caseload level or home base?
where you just apply for 80 and then you can slice it either way.
Right, is that flexible?
Or 40. Our friends at UCAN say 10 to a dozen families for early Head Start home base. Sui would like to chime in. Hi, Sui. 1 second, I'll unmute you. I sent you an audio pin, Sui. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but that's what the...
Yeah, if she didn't use an audio pin when she signed in, if she's only on a call, I'm not sure we can unmute her.
Yeah, she's pinned to caller too. Hi, Sui.
Oh, yay, good.
Now I have to unmute caller two, maybe? I don't know. There you are.
There we go. I had to unmute myself, just so you know.
The last step.
Not in my phone, but in the computer. So we've been doing this since 2009. When we started out, each home visitor had 12, and that was too much. When you're working with families with intensive needs, it can just be too much for folks. We have really tried to keep people at 10, but when we have staff out on maternity leave, we don't have a substitute home visitor come in, we move their caseload among the other folks. So those are just a couple of things to think about. Really 10 is ideal. 11 can be manageable for a short period of time, but 12 is way too many. Those are also, the maximum number in the performance standards is suggested at 10. 12. So anyway, that's just our 2 cents.
Stewie, that's great. I mean, it's more than 2 cents. We appreciate your wisdom as usual. So thank you for chiming in.
UCAN says that they do the same. Thanks, everybody.
Well, and Kim says 11. So it sounds like people are circling around 10, 11. That's great. Kim's folks are probably like a little bit like Robert's and maybe Sui's too, that there's some driving involved to get out to all those families. So I remember being a home visitor when I was a teacher and just put a lot of time in the old car going from place to place. We're about 5 minutes or so before the end of our episode of Dancing with the ELD Stars. Want to make sure that if you have any last minute questions, you can get them into the chat box. We'll remind you again, there's an email, OPK RFA at state.or.us. There's a phone number for the hotline. There is email for me and for Lindsey and Teresa. There's lots of ways that we'd like to support you in your applications. We know that this has not been perfectly smooth, and we really appreciate your flexibility and willingness to ask hard questions and wait for the answer. And Teresa's got to step off to another meeting, so thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Teresa is our ongoing thing that we say in our office. Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate it. Thank you, Robert. Right back.
I wanted to say one thing really quick before everybody hops off, but I was really proud and excited to be at the conference last week and to sit in on the information session and the new director's stuff, and just to meet your specialists and so on, but also to hear you know, how proud you guys are of the plans that you're making and the investments that I know that this is hard, and that I like to say with Michael secretly, more money, more problems. So we know that this funding is creating a lot of opportunities for looking at things and readjusting things, and we appreciate you hanging in there. And I was super proud to hear you guys talk about yourselves and about our state. So thanks a lot.
I can't think of a better way to end than with that. So be in touch, do good work, and let's talk soon. This is Michael and team signing off.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Region 10, for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Region 10.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. Good week.